Okay, here we are. Time for the next video. I think this is video number 11. So last time we saw this. So a red circle, I click on it, it turns blue. Now we want to create many circles. So how do we do that? Well, instead of one value for X and one value for Y, we need many values and we store them in an array. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say that X is not a fixed number, but it's an array. Y is also an array. The diameter will leave, we might even make it a bit smaller, let's say 50, just to make sure we can fit everything in. But the color will also be an array. So we won't have a fixed color anymore. But what we will have is a loop that allocates the X, the Y, and the color to each circle. So we're going to use a for loop for that. And the format of the for loop is, we start off with I equals 0. I will go up to 5. And I will increment by 1s. We open the curly bracket. Inside there, we will say that xi is a random number. So the screen is 400 wide. We'd say x is somewhere, anywhere between, say, 50 and 350. Oops. We'll say that y is the same. So also a random number anywhere on the screen, just for now. 50 and 350. Now, what do we do with the color? The color, I will start off with red. So I'll give that the value 1. Then I close my for loop. So we now have assigned the values before we get into the main part of the program. We've got 5 circles, random values. Now down here, what we want to do is, instead of drawing just the one circle, I'll get rid of that, we want to have 5. So once again, I'm going to borrow my little for loop text up there, and I'll paste it down here. So we've got a for loop, and in that for loop, we will, what we can do, we can first choose the color. So if C of I is 1, we want to use a red fill. If C of I is a 2, we want to use a blue fill. And now that we have determined the fill color, we will draw our circle. So the coordinates will be X, I, Y, I. The diameter will be 50. So we've set the D right up the top. And hopefully, just as a start, that should give us 5 circles. Let's see what happens. And sure enough, every time I click, I get 5 random circles. Okay. Well, now what we want to do is determine whether we have clicked on any of these circles. So down here under mouse clicked, we will once again, I'm going to borrow that little loop there, going from 1 to 5, paste it down here, and I'm going to test if the mouse X and the mouse Y, but it will be for X ice, because we're going to do this 5 times, of course. If that distance is, in other words, the mouse is within the circle, then what we will do is we will change the fill color to blue. Just got to make sure I've got the right number of brackets here. I think I need one to close off that if statement, and then we'll see how we go. So I draw my 5 circles, I click on one, and it changes. The others don't change because I'm not within the circle. This one changes, this one changes, this one changes. So you can already see that this is kind of like, almost like a game. So you could use this, a game where you're creating random circles, you know, make them appear random places, and maybe there's a timer, and how many of these can you click within 10 seconds or something, and can you make a score appear? Okay, now one last thing we're going to do is we're going to change the color. So if I, just for fun, if I click on it a second time, then it will change back the other way. So the way we're going to do that is, instead of forcing it to always go to blue, we will test. So we will say if CI equals 2, then change CI to 1. I have to put a double equal there because when you test something using an equal sign, you need 2 equal signs in an if statement. So we'll make it 1. But, oops, I've got to close that. And then I will say else, and the else needs to also have an open curly bracket, else CI will become 2. I think that logic is right. So if we read it as 2, make it a 1. But if it was a 1, make it a 2. Yeah, that's right. So then I'll close my curly bracket. And just to make sure we've got the right number of brackets, so 2 opens, so that opens there. I think I've got a I'm not sure if that's right. We'll see. I'm going to try it. So there's that. Oh, that's not working. Oh, it does work. Oh, it does work. Now, what's interesting is if 2 circles overlap, because in theory, if I click my mouse where they intersect, well, that's part of both circles. Do they both change? They do. And they both change back. And this one is like that. That one is like that. But what's interesting then is if I click on the intersection, the colors flip. So that's interesting, isn't it? So I'm going to leave this video as is, and I think I will post a text version of this so you don't have to do all the typing. See you soon.